So essentially, two things we're going to talk about today. We'll talk about communication in the infield. I think it's something we can breeze through, unless a lot of guys have some questions on that. And then the latter part will be spent on the base running side of it, okay? So anyway, so the first thing I want to talk about is communication in the infield. A couple of different things always come to mind when we talk about communications, especially what's the command? What are we going to say? What's the topic of what we're going to do when the ball goes in the air? So when I'm talking about communication, I'm not limiting it to fly ball communication. There's some memes, and me use communication between first base, pitcher, catcher triangle, pitcher, catcher, third baseman triangle. Then we talk about the fly ball communication with the outfielders, where the triangles, right? So think about shortstop to left field to third base converging, or shortstop, second baseman, and center field coming in, or right field, first baseman, second baseman. Maybe depending on the shift situation, maybe the center fielder is involved in that situation as well. So think about breaking the field into triangles, and you'll have a little bit of an idea. So if you could put that mental imagery together, where we're going to look at the triangles between short third left, triangle short second base center field, triangle second base right field first base, okay? And then reverse those triangles to the inside part of the infield. So now, like I just said before, third base, pitcher, catcher, triangle, right? And now you have first baseman, pitcher, catcher, triangle, right? And then obviously, if there's a situation where maybe the infield is in, or maybe there's a play where the guy has to get over, maybe second baseman fielding the ground ball, first baseman goes too far, second baseman now has to hit the pitcher covering, right? So those are things that we'll have to talk about also. Six fives in the hole. All those type of things are things that we're going to need to discuss. And for the upper class, for Sean, who's been on the call, Saul went through it last year, and the other guys who you're going to listen in afterwards, if you've been with us, you know that that's part of the defensive rotation that we do on our ground ball segment, right? We do, all the different types of ground balls, the 5-3, 6-5-3, 6-3, 4U, one straight out, like all those type of things that we move around with that. But all that involves communication. So first thing I want to talk about, obviously everybody knows fly ball communication. So ball goes up, right? Ball goes up in the infield. All right, shortstop has priority all over the diamond, okay? But be smart about it. So we always want the shortstop to take charge. The next bet would be the middle infielder, so second baseman, so either middle infielder, but shortstop should have priority over the entire diamond. Second base will have priority over the first baseman in that situation. And then if it's on the left side, obviously, I think it's self-explanatory. Shortstop has priority over the third baseman in that sense. So shortstop has control over the whole infield. Second baseman will be the second person in that priority level, and then the corner infielders, okay? I'm not a person that believes pitchers can't field their position, because we have a number of two-way guys, Sean being one of our better ones. So if there's a fly ball and he's on the mound, I want him to take charge in that sense. He's also a guy who's played a bunch of different positions for us on the infield, so I kind of give him the carte blanche with that. So I'm gonna allow him to field his position and take charge as best as he sees fit, and I will use that discretion as we go. So I'm not going to be one of those guys that just because the pitcher throws the pitch, he gets out of the way on the mound. That's not necessarily the case. So couple of things, think about that, right? Priority in the infield, priority in the outfield. So now in the outfield, just so that we have an idea, only focusing on the infield side of it, but center field has priority over everyone. So the rule of thumb, if you're going out as an infielder, right, and the outfielder's coming in, unless you're camped under it, me, waving everybody off, the outfielder has priority on that ball, okay? Now, if our shortstop goes back and he's under it, right? He's got waving everybody off. Me. I got it. Whatever. My communication is going to be me. But then if it continues to go and you're both shouting over each other, someone may get into I got it, like as if to demonstrate some demonstrative attitude where I have the ball. It's my ball. I got it. That's fine with me. Okay. So I love the back and forth communication. It's always nice to hear the you in the backside of that. Not always necessarily going to be the case, especially in a tough play where we're both ranging or three of us are ranging at the same time. But to anytime we can acknowledge the other player's presence, it's a huge thing. If you watched over the weekend, Brett Gardner made a really nice play going to his left center field. Aaron Hicks was also right there cutting over. and you could see the communication going back and forth between the two of them. So again, start watching the game not as a fan, but as a baseball a student of the game in that sense. Okay, so anytime an outfielder is coming in on the ball, and as an infielder you're going back on the ball, unless you're camped, okay, or you don't hear anybody, you go until you hear someone. So if I'm going back, and if you're home plate and I'm playing short and I got a ball going over my right shoulder and I'm going back and I'm ranging for it, I got to make sure that if I don't hear them, I'm keep going, okay? And if we collide, yeah, it's not going to be pretty, but and hopefully someone else in the mix will yell talk, or communicate in that sense, because you never want two guys converging. We've had it in the past. Well, we can't have that going forward. Okay, so priority and communication. Rule of thumb: outfielders coming in, unless the infielder's camped, the outfielder will be able to take priority there. If the infielder's camped, we want our infielders to take charge at all means. But again, if the outfielder is coming in or you're camped as an infielder, then you have priority in that sense. Okay, now tough plays. I always think our balls hit down the lines, those like humping, looping fly balls, where maybe the third baseman's kind of like even with the bag or some sort, and he doesn't really have room to range. And that's he may be late to go back on it, okay, or may get a bad read, right? Because it may start off over his left shoulder, but hook back over the right shoulder. So in that sense, by the time, especially if he's up, because the ball's going to change, and if anyone's ever played the outfield, most of the time the ball will hook to the line. So I know Sean's been in right field for us. He's also briefly played a little bit of center field. But you always know that the ball is going to probably go to the line. Generally, not always. If there's top spin, it's going to come down on you. But if you're a third baseman and you're playing up, or a first baseman and you're up in that situation, when the ball goes over your head, even if it's not well struck, it may still it's going to have a chance to maneuver up there. And that's a lot of times where you see those third basemen try and make that over the shoulder catch, because they reacted to the ball perfectly the way it was hit off the bat, in that sense, where again, if you're like almost standing in the third base coach's box and I'm a third baseman now, if I'm here and I break over my left, do everything I have to do, and now all of a sudden I'm dropping, I got to do my head turn down and look over this way. And that's something that we do with the outfielders in a head turn drill. We don't really spend too much time in the infield working on that. But that's where our shortstop is our help in that sense. So if we're on the corners, that's where our middle guys really help us out, because the same concept would apply. So same thing if you're in the first base coach's box right now and I'm playing first base and I'm holding on a runner, or I'm playing even or up with the base, I come off the bag, the ball is hit over my left shoulder, I break as if it's going that way, but now I have to head turn down and maybe come this way, when the second baseman clearly has the angle on those humpback looping line drives, because those will always tail towards the line. And some of the places that we do play, there's a lot of foul territory. So anytime a ball goes up in the air, as infielders, it should be an out for us, regardless. And that's that. You guys who played with me before can always hear me scream that. We're probably one of the few teams that does work on fly ball practice. We work the triangles, yet we also work the basic pop-ups. We'll spend a good amount of time on that in practice. It's something that a lot of teams don't spend time with, because as infielders, we're always looking down at the ball, but yet we also have to feel the ball that's above us. And a lot of times when we start to run, we also don't practice that. So I think that's an important part of the practice plan contingent when we do get back in the fall and at normal times in general, that you should be working on your fly balls, because when the ball goes up in the air, that's an out. That's a gimme out. All you got to do is catch it. You don't even have to throw. You're eliminating one half of the throw catch dynamic to record an out on the defensive side of the ball. So keep that in mind. Okay. So what we've covered so far, talking about the triangles, right? Left, short, third, center, second, short, right? And then right field, second base, first base. Infield triangles, bunts in front of you maybe, but also on the infield pop-ups, okay, how that priority. It's always going to be the infield. So the infielders on the corners, so first baseman, third baseman, maybe it's a catcher's pop, all right? Now the catcher, if you've ever caught, you're taking off your mask, you're turning back turning your back towards the infield, you're getting squared up underneath the ball, and it's a lot easier for the first baseman or the third baseman, or even, like I said before, the pitcher to come in and call that catcher off. Because unfortunately, as many of you guys know by playing baseball in the Northeast, you know that there is a lot of those half moon backstops, right? Where it limits what you're actually getting above your head, right? So almost similar to this, I got a cage hanging above me. If I'm catching right here, I don't have to worry about that. So we've always seen that with some of the catchers, especially guys that come from Long Island, Westchester, Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, Manhattan, all those guys, most of the time you play with that type of a backstop. So it's limiting on your development for actually working on that. So just a thought process on that. So it's a lot easier if our first baseman, our third baseman, even our pitcher in that sense, can really get involved in the conversions and take charge on that fly ball that goes up in that spot. So so that's priority around the infield, okay? That's also a little discussion on the first base, third baseman drop steps on how that direction can change, how shortstop and second baseman could apply some relief in that spot by being aggressive and taking over in that sense by making those plays, okay? And again, if an outfielder is coming in, the infielder will always yield unless you're camped underneath it or you do not hear anything, okay? You're always going to go for the ball as long as you don't hear anything, and don't shy away from that. That's important. Any questions on that stuff up top? Any of the priorities up top and how things will shake out on that side? Okay, good. So, you know, a lot of times in the outfield when we work the gaps, right? Shortstops, left field and center fielders converge in the left center gap. Center field, right field converge in the right center gap. You know, obviously we've talked about this for 4 weeks, ball base backup, right? So now both those two guys are going for the ball. And then, you know, as an infielder, you're watching the play because you may be reacting to the double cut. You may be forced to now go out further because they're going out further. So to tie this back into the cuts, if there's that fly ball that goes out, when they go out, you got to go out, right? So now you're going to close that gap a little bit for them. However, when the fly ball does go up between the two of them, and if something does happen, you know, you always have to be aware that maybe you might have to actually run out there and go get that ball. So, but you can't neglect your infield duty. So the communication process of the stuff that's going on behind you is really important, that information is relayed back out. So if, you know, somebody falls down on the bases, the base runner maybe, but the outfielders also fell down. Like, those are little things that you may say, oh, they're never going to happen, but it's CUNY baseball. Sometimes things might happen that you least expect. That's for sure. We've seen enough of it. Sean and I have seen enough of it together. That's for sure. Things that you will never see. So, and the other day we saw a situation in the big leagues, right, where the guy actually hit a home run and it was called back. And Sean and I have actually seen that in person. So it's something that you'll never see ever again. And we've now seen it twice in the past 3 years, both at our level and the big league level. So don't be surprised at what you actually do see. So a couple of different things also on the priority on the fly ball. Obviously, when everyone is converging, okay, there still has to be precedence on what's happening, right? Because we never want to have that ball that's hit directly, literally up and ends up on the mound, right? And everyone's staring at it. That's a problem. But a good base runner is going to always hustle out of the box and is going to keep going, especially if there's 2 outs. So in that situation, we're all going to converge on the ball probably, especially if the bases are empty, or maybe there's 2 outs, because we're all going to converge. However, there still need to be bases covered. So as we start to get down to the nitty gritty, and you watch this happen on television, you'll start to see the different areas of the priority peel off, right? So now if it's towards the middle of the field, shortstop's going to come in. He's going to take a look. The first baseman going to come in, take a look at it. He's not in the play anymore. He's going to get back and cover up his base. Maybe if it's the second baseman in that sense, he hears the shortstop call it, he's going to go back, okay? And you'll start to see the guys peel off. And if you're the pitcher in that spot, obviously you need to go. You went for the ball. Now you need to go to the base, all right, in that sense. So don't just become a spectator in that mode, okay? When to call the fly ball, last piece of the fly ball talk. When to call it. A lot of guys will call it right off the bat. Big mistake, okay? Because a lot of times the ball can change direction. We already just talked about being a third base or first base with the infield kind of up, or even with the bag in that sense, or holding the runner on, where the ball may take a different angle as it goes over your head, okay? So same logic will apply here, where if the ball goes up, you're going to wait till it gets to its highest point. And I know the anxiety and the desire to, you know, make the play or get to the end of it to be over in that sense, especially if you're someone that, you know, gets a little heartbeat. The game speeds up on you when the fly ball goes in the air because you don't work on it enough. But again, the ball goes in the air, it should be an out. We're going to wait till we're going to be patient. We're going to let the ball get to its highest point. We're still going to react to it on the ground. So as soon as you see it off the bat, you're not going to just stand there flat-footed as a shortstop, and then you're going to react to it. You're going to react to the batted ball off the bat. You're going to do everything you've already prepared mentally to do and physically to be able to accomplish. You're going to drop step, you're going to hit your spots. Okay, if you can work on your head turn, you're going to work on your head turn. All those things you're going to do, but you're not going to call it until it gets to its peak. So it's super important that you pay attention. The routine fly ball is the one that always causes guys the most stress. Why? Because you start to get in that mode where it starts to drift on you. Okay, you go up, you stay stagnant. Even in the big leagues, you see guys start to, drift a little bit with you, let it go to one side or the other. Putting your hands up too fast is another thing I think that always is a problem. I played with a guy who was an excellent center fielder. Used to tap when he always had a beat on a ball, he'd always tap his hip. And if he tapped his hip, he explained to me, that means he knew he was going to catch it. So it's almost like I was someone who had a tough time with fly balls, and it used to make me pretty nervous. So I kind of developed something similar to that, where I wasn't going to put my hands up to make the catch until the ball was on its way down. And the way I would kind of understand that was I'd kind of hit my glove on my leg. Not about style points. It's just about being in a rhythm where once the ball goes up, it's at its highest point. Me. I may wave, but I may hit my hip to make sure I know I have a beat. It's kind of my way to keep my hands relaxed and not stiff and locked out and here, so that if the ball does take a little funny wind-blown spot on the way down, or maybe it's a knuckleball and has that crazy spin when it's coming down or something, I'm ready for it. I can anticipate that. And then again, not getting locked out with my legs, because a lot of times that ball goes up, you're kind of going to get in that spot, but you always want to maintain a good athletic position. I like to try and sometimes if I can I'm never going to have my feet staggered together. They're always going to be one foot, probably left foot. My left foot's definitely going to be in front of my right foot. Why? Because I want to make sure I'm in a position to throw. If there's runners on base in that spot, or if I'm on the outfield grass or wherever I may be, if I'm in the infield, I want to make sure I can make the catch. I want to be in an athletic position to make sure I can throw the baseball and look to another play on the inside part of the diamond. Okay. And that'll take us to the last piece of the defensive side, which is the pump fakes. We kind of got into this a little bit on some of the other things with the cutoffs and relays, but I just wanted to touch briefly upon the necessity of the pump fake. Starting to see a lot of it in the big leagues right now because of some of the extra inning games that are going on, and you're starting to see the bunt come down with the runner on second when they start the extra innings. So there's a couple of different ways you can move that runner over to third, right? Or try and score that runner. But you're starting to see a little bit more small ball. And you're starting to see guys pick up the ball in a spot where they may not have a primary play. So always looking for the secondary play. So never give up on that side of things. And you'll see a lot of that at third base. Why? Because the shortstop may be coming over to cover the bag in that sense. Or, if the first baseman looks to third base in that side. So if you're behind me and you're in the first base coach's box again and I'm charging hard, I'm making the play, I may look to third base to see if I have a play there. I don't. Now I need to reassess my feet to go to first base in that spot. So, but the pump fake in there could actually create wonders there for you. It can put movement on the bases that may not necessarily happen on the defensive side of it. So I think we've covered the fly balls pretty well. We talked about the triangles. We talked about priority in the infield, the outfield coming in. We've talked about a couple of different things that could possibly happen. Staying in rhythm, not getting locked out. When I work with young kids, I always talk about when you're fielding a fly ball, obviously you always want to catch the ball with two hands. When you're on the run, you're never going to catch the ball with two hands. It's always going to be one-handed. But a ball that's coming down at you and you have time to assess, you're always going to catch the ball with two hands. I always like to talk about getting your hands not up too early at a good time. I told you about my little tap now that I've developed. To get my hands up in a rhythm, staying in a good athletic position where I can move if the ball does take a chance on the way down, but I'm not going to move with my hands up in that spot. I'm going to always make sure I'm in an athletic position to move to catch that fly ball. And just another rule of thumb is you want to get your hands above your head, right, above my head, but in front of my face. And I want to be able to look out the window here when that ball's coming down to me, okay? Now that window can be above your glove, okay? Because you're never going to catch the ball like this, right? So you're not going to be looking at it here all the time, but you want to make sure that you can see out the window on top when the ball's coming in and out the window on the bottom, okay, when you actually secure the baseball to transition it into your glove, to your throwing hand to look inside the diamond for the other play that may be out there. Any questions on any of that?